Hold on. Margaret, let's go. No more.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into today's video.
Sorry for the loudness. I'm so sorry. It'll be funny on YouTube when everyone sees your pain, but they don't experience it because Flip reduces the volume and everyone gets to laugh at your pain. But a little tip as a content creation, video does not matter as much as audio. So if you have the time, spend $100 on a microphone.
Talk to you guys a little bit more about the reasons that I got fired from my first 2 junior developer jobs. I know that there's a lot of people that have gone through coding boot camps and they've turned out a lot better than I have. I also know that there's a lot of students that have gone through coding boot camps and they've turned out a lot worse than I have. I just want to share with you guys my experience. Hopefully it'll be useful for some of you guys and it'll help some of you avoid the pitfalls that I personally fell into. So
I always love these kind of videos, right? There's a lot of you that, hell, I could even learn from this thing as well. Just having the ability to learn from someone else's mistakes is just a huge benefit in someone's life. So this is a good moment to be a part of. I've made many mistakes, and I've been very honest about all my mistakes. So this is great. This is good stuff.
Quick summary about me. My name is Joe. I spontaneously signed up for a coding boot camp about 2 years ago. I didn't have a computer until just a few days before class began. I was definitely one of the worst students rather than one of the better students, but I decided to go anyway because I was desperate to find something to do with my life, and coding seemed like a good idea. So I went ahead, I gave it a shot, I got my ass kicked, but I definitely learned a lot, and it's been worth it overall. So anyway, let me...
You gotta put some respect on that, okay? Hey, can we put some respect on that? You know, not even having a computer signing up for a boot camp, I'm just saying, you gotta put some respect on that.
Give you guys a breakdown of what happened to me. So starting with my first job, let's start there. Number one, this job was handed to me, essentially. I didn't apply for this job through like Indeed. Having a job handed to you is something I do not recommend.
Indeed, that's a little confusing. Handing a job, interesting take, okay.
Number two, I wouldn't be working on a team at this job, which turned out to be a huge problem. Number three, my first job, I was working for a non-tech company, if that makes any sense. Basically, this job, like I said, this job was handed to me by a cousin. He has the same last name as me, so you guys can consider it a family business, I guess. They needed somebody to help them set up a dashboard that basically was pulling data to display in graphs and charts. And they used a specific software to display these graphs and charts. And so my cousin was talking about it. He's like, yeah, all we need is someone that knows basic JavaScript and SQL. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm your guy. I just went through a coding bootcamp that taught me that. I'll do it for you. Turned out to be a disaster.
By the way, I think this is a really good point, which is when someone says your job requires X and Y, they're probably lying. It requires X, Y, and synergy, the not very popular 1980s language. That's kind of like small talk. You know, like when you really think about it, it's kind of like small talk, right? Whenever you're integrating with a piece of software, it's always a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. Oh, synergy. Yeah, Bisco knows about it. You're right. It's like, it can be, so, you know, this is a good lesson right here already off the rip, which is you should really ask a lot of questions. But, you know, to be fair, you also get some learning experience when you're fresh out. Having experience, having real experience is always a net benefit. Always ask questions, though.
Mentorship, no help, nobody within this massive building to ask a simple coding question to. 80% of this company is like warehouse work, and I was just on the really small operations side. So nothing I did, nothing was React or Angular or no framework.
There's that again. So this is that big thing I always talk about when people just know JavaScript. They orient themselves based on a UI library. Just like as a way for you to be better as an engineer, don't orient yourself according to a library, right? Become really great at the fundamentals, learn how to build complex tools, and the framework will stop mattering more and more and more and more and more. Okay?
Nothing that I learned from my coding bootcamp I did at this first job, and I kind of expected that. That's what I was taught, but this was different. Now the thing is, there's a lot that can be done with computer code, and
facts.
There's only so much that you can learn from a coding bootcamp. What I got myself into was not a good job for somebody with so little experience. I definitely needed a mentor. I needed to work on a team. I needed just somebody around me that I could just talk code with. And that's something I didn't have at this job. Sure.
I think this is just a good point for anyone, especially the newer you are in a career. And in reality, even at my level, at my time, my tenure in a career, honestly, having people around you to discuss things is really, really, really good. Honestly, it's really, really good. You, especially, I mean, but it's that's like my whole worry with this remote work revolution, which is you are new in an industry and you don't have someone that can help guide you the same way because you're remote, right? The barrier to ask a question remotely versus in person is way, way different. The amount of communication that's going to happen is way, way different. And so, I really do feel like that this group, whatever it is, this group of people that are working, today that are just starting out, man, that's tough. It's really, really tough stuff out there. Okay. I feel like it's tough. Pair programming is great especially the newer you are, pair programming is great. It really is.
I think that I could have figured it out.
ChatGPT is not a replacement. I know you're joking. I know that's like tongue in cheek. ChatGPT is not a replacement for human interaction. It will never be a replacement for human interaction. In fact, when we finally die, like when the human race finally goes extinct, is when they can integrate ChatGPT into sex robots. No one's going to ever have a human interaction again, and the race will die. That is just what's going to happen, and no one will know how to have relationships ever again. So guess what? It's not that great. Let's not be all happy about that.
If I had more help, sure, there are other students out there. There's people that went to my class that they probably could have done this job. The thing is, I just wasn't one of them. I struggled with it. I'd say I got like 80% done with it, but bringing down the last 20%, it was beyond me. It was beyond my skill level. And the company just kind of realized that, maybe this dashboard is not important. Let him go. So off I went. So the moral of this particular story is be careful about the first job that you get directly out of a coding bootcamp. I highly recommend that you stick with something similar to what you learned through the coding bootcamp, which is most likely something web related. Regardless of what you're doing, I highly recommend you get yourself a job where you're going to find a mentor. So that was my first job.
I think that last piece of advice is way better than everything else he said. I don't think you need to stick with anything you've learned within a boot camp, right? Like if you've went through a boot camp and you figured out how to program, you understand what programming is besides for just using React, right? Like if you're in a boot camp now, take time to build things other than React. Build a tic-tac-toe player, but try building it only using like printf statements that you refresh the screen every single time. Try doing it with the TUI. Try building anything. Aggregate data and build something else out. Build a service that has to stand up by itself. Just stop being a one library, one framework Andy, and actually go on and become something that is a programmer. But he is 100% correct. If you go to a job without a mentor, the likelihood of your success has been greatly reduced.
I feel like I hardly learned anything from that job, and everything that I learned from my coding bootcamp felt like it was just kind of slowly starting to fade away as I was trying to learn this software to do all these graphs and charts. I don't know. I was stoked that I got a job, but it did a lot more damage than good, if I'm being honest with myself. So you'd think that I would have learned my lesson based off of what happened to me in my first.
One more thing that you noticed that what he said. I want this is a big takeaway, and I want you to kind of think about this. So obviously he didn't give us how many hours he was working. He didn't give a lot of information about what was going on in his personal life. So we're only making conjecture here. We're not actually making any sort of truth statement. But if you're at a place in which you feel like your skills are atrophying, you have two things you need to do. One, you need to find a new job. But two, you need to work on side projects. You need to make something that grows your skill set. If you are atrophying, it is usually a very bad sign. Now, if you love your job, but you're still atrophying, then side projects are the simple answer. You don't have to get a new one, but it's just something always to take that into to heart.
First job, but unfortunately, my second job is kind of the same thing. Once again, this job was basically handed to me. I didn't apply for it. Again, I do not recommend this. Number two, I kind of lied on my resume, I'll be honest. The guy that was hiring me, he knew that I lied on my resume, so we thought it was going to be okay. We thought we'd kind of be able to work through it. Now, this was for a senior full stack position.
Okay, in general, like it's good to try to like apply to jobs outside of your skill set. Like if there's some growth in there, that's okay. But if you're fresh from a boot camp and you're trying to shoot for senior, I'm just letting you know that's like it's a disaster waiting to happen. You know what I mean? Like that's too far outside, right? Like I wouldn't be able, I know how to program and I know some things about Python and some basic data science. Like I know why you want to take the median over the mean, right? That doesn't mean I'm a data scientist. or have any clue what to do. Yeah, I can write some basic squeal queries. I'm not a data scientist, so for me, applying to be one of them would be a ridiculous endeavor, right? I would just get fired because people would be like, dude, you don't know what you're even talking about.
Basically 4 years of JavaScript experience, 4 years of Linux experience, 4 years of server management experience, 4 years of SQL. Nothing within the job description I qualified for. There was also a handful of things within the job description that I needed 3 or 4 years worth of experience with that I didn't even know what it was. But I talked with the guy, he's like, you know what? I'll hire you anyways. Like, I think we're gonna be able to work through this. The third thing that was wrong with this job is it was like my previous job. I'm gonna be working on a small team. My last job, I was just a one-man show, which was a huge problem. Now with this one, at least I had a boss, but honestly, it was just me and him. There was one senior level engineer and then one junior level engineer who was me. Basically, the job description said that you're gonna need to work independently, you're gonna need to be able to finish your tasks with very little help. Those should have been red flags right there, because clearly I needed help, but I was desperate for a job, so I was honestly willing to take anything I could get. Like I said, this job, again, it was handed to me, and it ended up being a bigger disaster than my first job. I accidentally erased all of the files for one of our web pages.
You know, that's always funny to me, but how does that happen? Like, real talk, how does that happen? Like, I get the deleting data from a database one, but how does erasing files happen? Don't you have some Git somewhere? Right? Yeah, some version control somewhere at some point, and you still have reflog, right? Even if you just delete your project and force push master, you still have history.
Luckily, it wasn't live at the time, but still, it was a huge disaster because we didn't use Git, which should be another huge red flag. If you're familiar with code, you should, or at least even just code, web design, you should use Git. We didn't. We only used FTP file transfer, so it took like...
Oh, gosh. Oh, he just named 2 different technologies as if they're the same thing. We didn't use Git, we used FTP. You're like, what? What? What the hell? What the hell did you just say?
8 hours to upload a single file, and nothing that I would write on code would reflect live in the browser like it does with React, or even with just simply refreshing an HTML page. I would write code, take an hour to upload it. If it didn't work, then I'd have to go through. It just, honestly, it was a mess, and there would be days in between me even talking.
What? Yeah, I mean, that just seems like a developer nightmare. That senior engineer that's there, this is one of the problems with small shops, is that there's people that are senior engineers that shouldn't be senior engineers. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what I was doing as an engineer, that means I have fundamentally messed up. Hands down. And so, I've seen this before. You get enough incompetent senior engineers together, you have truly found 10x engineers. And by 10x, I mean it requires 10x more effort to do anything. It's the only truest 10x engineers out there, right? It is just insane what could happen.
With my boss, sometimes like 3 or 4 days would go without us even talking, and he was like 3 times my age, so it kind of felt like there was this little bit of disconnect almost. I personally felt like we were designing and building websites that looked like they were from 1997, and everything that I felt like we were using was so old and outdated and looked old. Nothing that I learned from my coding bootcamp was even in sight of what we were doing. But I couldn't say anything to him because he's my boss. He's been doing this longer than
Again, so this just goes right back to that same don't be a React Andy. Like, if you threw me right now into a jQuery project, if you threw me into just a DOM-only manipulation, pure JavaScript project, I could be successful. I will be successful because I understand how these things work. Like, I don't want to just be a React Andy. I can do it, right? Like, I can figure this out.
I've even been alive. And I'm just a junior developer that failed my way through a coding bootcamp. So like, what do I have to say to him? I remember I made a post on Reddit, kind of laying out my job, trying to get some feedback from some people shortly after I started. And I'll never forget, I had to actually delete the post after like an hour or two because it was just blowing up. And so many people were like, get the hell out of that job. Like, you don't do this. You use FTP. You don't use GitHub. You don't do this. Like, there were so many red flags.
Yeah. The GitHub one is just insane.
Everyone was like, get out of that job. Like, go find a job where you're going to learn. And I should have listened, but the pay was good. I was desperate for a job, and so I just stuck it out for as long as I could. and it ended up not really being worth it, I'll be honest. Now, the final straw for me at that job was when my boss left for a 7-day vacation, and basically he like switched servers like the night before he left and sent me login credentials that didn't work. And he said he didn't have service for 7 days. I couldn't get into the server. I really don't know shit about server management, I'll be honest. And so when he got back and realized I didn't do anything for a week, he let me go, which I don't blame him, I'll be honest. I probably would have let me go too. But I couldn't get into the server, passwords never worked. It was not a good time, to say the least. I'm glad to be out. It was something.
If the boss fired you over that, honestly, the boss needed to be fired. If you left 7 days no service and you handed someone incorrect credentials, there is no level of server management sophistication that you're going to be able to fix that situation. Right? Like, unless if you happen to be Elliot from whatever that Hackerman TV show was. Like, unless if you're Hackerman hacking time, you're not just going to be like, oh, yeah, you actually gave me the wrong credentials? Well, let me just root access your machine really quickly. If you're root accessing the machine, you're at the wrong job. Oh, here I go. Just a quick little, this guy just set up a quick honeypot. I saw that coming. Let me just skirt around these issues.
It was good. It was fun. A good experience, a bad experience.
Then
I don't
get
even
fired
know.
for hacking.
I got fired, so take that for what you will. So there you guys go. There is my list of excuses on why I got fired from my first 2 junior developer jobs. Trust me, I've thought it over a million times. I know there's a lot of things that I could have done differently to change my results. But hey, now you guys know, and honestly, that's what's most important. I hope you guys learned something, or you guys will take away something from this video, or at least it was enjoyable. So if anything I've said has been beneficial to you guys, go ahead, leave a like down below, consider subscribing to my channel. I apologize that my videos are not always that good. They're slowly but surely getting a little bit better. I'm simultaneously trying to learn lighting and camera and video editing while trying to launch a website or a web.
No, you got to learn audio. I know this is a couple years old. Please tell me you fixed your audio.
Design business, freelance, find clients, charge clients. I'm just trying to document this whole process. So thank you guys again for watching, and I'll catch you guys.
He became front-end Jesus not too long afterwards. Look at that.
On the next video. Can you say hi, kitty? Can you say hi to the camera, kitty?
He flexed. That was a flex. Hey everybody. Hey everybody. Have you seen my mouse? It's right here. Just in case. Oh, there's my mouse again. It's over here. Not a big deal. I just use a mouse, from time to time. Whatever. Nice mouse, thank you. I was just flexing my mouse game, okay? It's a nice mouse, yeah. Sun's out, guns out. Show your left arm, you don't want to see it, it's way thinner. Let's see, okay, well now that we did that, real talk though. Great video, takeaway you should have. Okay, Cam, I got you. The takeaway you should have here is that mentorship is your biggest goal. Mentorship is going to be the thing that's going to make more difference in your career than anything else. And I mean it. So real talk. Get a mentor. I'm not a mentor, right? People reach out to me on a weekly basis asking to be a mentor. The thing is if I'm not there with you, if I'm not building a project with you, you can't pay me money to make me a good mentor, right? You need someone that can actually be your mentor, that sees you day in and day out, that spends hours, at a time with you, that knows who you are. Find a good mentor. And I mean that. Find a good one. It will make a huge difference in your life. The name is the Primeagen. Don't be a React Andy.